Ladies and gentlemen, imagine for a moment that everything you've ever desired, peace, success, love, clarity, is already within your reach. But here's the paradox: you don't get it by chasing, by forcing, or by constantly speaking. You get it by staying silent. True power lies in silence, because silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of awareness. And when you learn to be still, when you learn to quiet the noise of the world and the noise in your own mind, that's when the universe starts to whisper the answers you've been searching for. Tonight, I want to show you why staying silent is not weakness. It is the ultimate strength. Stay with me, because silence may just be the secret key to everything you've been waiting for in life. Silence is power. Most people misunderstand this simple truth. We live in a world that is constantly noisy, phones ringing, notifications buzzing, voices demanding our attention, and the endless chatter in our own heads telling us what we should do, what we shouldn't do, what we lack, what we fear. In that noise, we start to believe that speaking more, doing more, running faster, and trying harder is the way to success. But the real strength, the real transformation, comes when you can discipline yourself to be still, to be quiet, and to simply observe without reacting. Silence is not about being passive, it is about being connected to something deeper than words, deeper than noise, deeper than the surface distractions of life. Think about it. When you are silent, you are no longer scattering your energy outward. Instead, you are drawing it inward, consolidating it, allowing it to build like a powerful current beneath the surface. Great leaders, wise thinkers, spiritual masters, many of them practiced silence not because they had nothing to say, but because they understood the energy of silence carried more power than thousands of careless words. When you are silent, you are no longer wasting energy defending yourself, explaining yourself, or trying to convince others. You are centered, you are grounded. And from that center, you carry an invisible strength that others can feel even without you saying a word. Silence is power because it allows you to listen, not just to the noise around you, but to the whispers of your own intuition, the guidance of your higher self, and the subtle signals of the universe that are impossible to hear when you are drowning in constant thought and constant speech. It is in silence that breakthroughs happen, that ideas come to you out of nowhere, that healing begins to unfold, and that you suddenly realize solutions you have been chasing are already inside you. The one who masters silence masters himself, and the one who masters himself becomes unshakable in the world. The mind is noisy, and this is one of the greatest struggles of our time. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, there is a constant stream of thoughts running through our heads. Some are about the past, replaying old mistakes or regrets. Some are about the future, filled with anxiety, fear, or endless planning. And very few are about the present moment, which is the only place where life is actually happening. Most people don't even realize how loud their inner world has become because they've grown so used to it. They believe that this chatter is normal, that it is who they are, but the truth is the mind is like an untamed radio station, always on, always playing, and rarely tuned to the frequency that matters. This noise doesn't just tire us mentally, it drains us emotionally and physically. When the mind keeps running from one worry to another, when it constantly comments, criticizes, compares, and judges, it leaves us restless, distracted, and disconnected from ourselves. Have you noticed that sometimes even in a quiet room, you don't feel peace? That's because silence outside does not matter if there is chaos inside. The world could be still, but if your mind is screaming, you will not feel calm. The greatest noise is not around you, it is within you. And this noise is what prevents you from seeing clearly, from feeling deeply, from hearing your intuition, and from experiencing life fully. The noisy mind makes us reactive. It pushes us to respond to everything instantly, to speak without thinking, to act without alignment, to chase after things we don't even want. This is why so many people feel unfulfilled, because their actions are being dictated by noise, not by clarity. The noisy mind does not let you connect to your higher self. It drowns out the wisdom that comes only in stillness. That is why learning to quiet the mind is one of the most powerful practices you can ever commit to. It is not about shutting thoughts off completely, but about observing them without letting them control you, about stepping back and realizing you are not the noise, you are the one listening to it. When you start to witness your thoughts rather than being ruled by them, you take your power back. The mind is a beautiful servant, but a terrible master. If you don't train it, if you don't discipline it, it will keep shouting, distracting, and pulling you away from your true path. But when you learn to quiet it, when you create space between the thoughts, you open the door to peace, creativity, and wisdom that the noise was hiding all along. Stillness connects you in a way that words can never fully describe. When you allow yourself to be still, truly still, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel a deeper connection, not only with yourself, but with everything around you. Most people live their lives constantly moving, constantly rushing, constantly filling the spaces with noise and activity. But when you stop, when you quiet your body and quiet your mind, you create the space for connection, for alignment, for awareness to rise. Stillness is not emptiness, stillness is fullness. It is in stillness that you realize you are not separate from life, you are part of it, flowing with it, connected to something far greater than your individual self. Think about a lake. When the water is restless and turbulent, you cannot see your reflection. But when the water becomes still, it becomes like a mirror reflecting with clarity everything above it. The same is true for the mind. When your thoughts are constantly stirring, your inner world is cloudy and unclear. But when you embrace stillness, your awareness becomes like that calm lake, able to reflect the truth, able to reveal the wisdom that has always been there. Stillness doesn't just calm you, it opens a doorway to higher states of consciousness, to intuition, to creativity, and to the intelligence of the universe that flows through you. It is in stillness that you can feel the presence of your own soul. You begin to sense that you are more than your body, more than your thoughts, more than your emotions. You are connected to a field of energy, a field of intelligence that is infinite. This is why people who practice meditation, prayer, or moments of silence often describe a sense of oneness, a sense of belonging, a sense of being guided by something beyond themselves. In stillness, the boundaries that separate you from others, from nature, from the universe, begin to dissolve. You feel the same life force that is beating your heart is the same life force flowing in every person, every tree, every star. This realization is not something you can learn through books or lectures. It is something you experience in the silence of stillness. Stillness connects you to your intuition. In the business of life, intuition is drowned out by the constant noise of logic, fear, and distraction. But in stillness, your inner voice grows louder, clearer, more trustworthy. You begin to know without reasoning, to see without searching, to understand without analyzing. This is the kind of knowing that guides you toward the right choices, the right people, the right path. It is the knowing that keeps you aligned with your purpose. Stillness also connects you to others on a deeper level. When you are still within, you are no longer projecting fear, anxiety, or chaos outward. You begin to listen more deeply, to feel more compassion, to be present with others in a way that words cannot achieve. People are drawn to those who carry stillness within them because it makes them feel safe, seen, and valued. And most importantly, stillness connects you to the divine. Whether you call it God, the universe, source, or higher intelligence, it is in stillness that you experience its presence most profoundly. You realize that you are not alone, that you are supported, that life is not against you but for you. This connection brings peace, trust, and a sense of surrender, knowing that you don't have to control everything because you are already connected to everything. Energy follows attention. If you want to change your life, the first thing you must change is where you put your attention. Attention is the currency of creation. Whatever you focus on expands, whatever you ignore shrinks. When you train your attention, you are literally shaping your inner landscape and, by extension, the world that landscape produces. This is not poetic wishful thinking. It is the practical fact that your moments of focus accumulate into patterns, and those patterns become your neural habits, your emotional tone, and the circumstances you magnetize into experience. Think of attention like a beam from a flashlight in a dark room. The beam doesn't create the room, but it reveals what is already there, and the steadier you hold it, the clearer and more detailed the picture becomes. Hold that beam on fear, on lack, on what's wrong, and you will find nothing but more reasons to reinforce that fear. Hold it instead on possibility, on the feeling of having what you want, on the qualities you want to embody, and over time, the neurons, the hormones, and the subtle energy of your body will start to reorganize around that focus. The body learns from repeated attention. The mind forms circuits where attention travels most often. This is how change becomes real, not by shouting about it, but by quietly and consistently re-aiming your attention. There is a practical anatomy to this. Every time you place attention on a thought, an image, or a feeling, you trigger electrical and chemical events in the brain and body. Repetition deepens those pathways until they become the default, your automatic responses, your habitual emotions, your interpretation of the world. When you pair sustained attention with elevated emotion, gratitude, joy, inner certainty, you amplify the signal. That amplified signal has a greater likelihood of imprinting a new pattern into your nervous system. In other words, attention without feeling is like planting a seed on hard ground. Attention with feeling is like watering and tending the seed until it grows. This principle explains why so many people get stuck. They give their attention to the wrong things by default, replays of the past, worst-case scenarios, other people's opinions, the noise of social media and news cycles. Those repeated attentional investments strengthen the problem circuitry, making problems feel more real and persistent. Conversely, those who learn to deliberately redirect attention, even for small pockets of time each day, begin to weaken old patterns and seed new ones. The change is often invisible at first because it starts deep in the wiring. But with time, your outer life will reflect the quieter inner shifts. To use attention as a creative force, you must become the director of your focus. Start by noticing where your attention drifts during the day. Are you replaying a conversation, worrying about tomorrow, scrolling reflexively? Catch it. Then consciously move the beam. Anchor on your breath, on a clear image of the life you intend, on the feeling of already having it. Hold that focus long enough for the body to feel it. Let your physiology register the new program. This is not about pretending or forcing. It's about training your capacity to be present with intention, to keep your attention aligned with possibility rather than default drama. There will be resistance. Old neural circuits push back. The nervous system prefers familiar threat patterns because familiarity feels safe even when it's painful. That's why discipline matters more than motivation. Small, consistent choices about where you place your attention compound into transformation. 10 minutes of deliberate, elevated focus every morning, repeated daily, will change the room your flashlight reveals. Over weeks and months, those small investments compound into a different way of being, quieter, clearer, and more magnetic to the experiences you truly want. Beware the thief of attention, distraction dressed as productivity. The more you fragment your focus with reactive scrolling, anxious multitasking, or habitual complaining, the more you dilute your energy. Energy follows attention, and a scattered attention yields scattered results. Choose instead to steward your attention like the most valuable asset you have. Protect it, train it, and use it to build the inner field that will attract what you intend. You do not need permission to practice this. In any moment, you can shift the beam, you can take a breath, move your attention from problem to potential, and hold it there with feeling. Over time, that simple act becomes your superpower, a reproducible interior technique to influence your brain, your body, and the life that emerges from them. If you want different results, start by looking where you've been looking and then choose another focus. Energy will follow. Silence heals in ways that nothing else can. The body has a natural intelligence, an incredible ability to repair, to reset, and to restore balance. But most of us never give it the chance because we keep bombarding ourselves with noise, stress, stimulation, and endless activity. We live in constant reaction, reacting to messages, reacting to people, reacting to circumstances. And in that constant state of reactivity, the body remains locked in survival mode. When you are always on alert, always tense, always thinking and overthinking, your nervous system cannot return to balance. Silence becomes the medicine that allows the system to slow down, to release, and to begin the natural process of healing that is always waiting beneath the surface. When you enter silence, your breath deepens without you forcing it, your heart rate softens, and the overactive patterns of the brain begin to calm. The chemical storms of stress, cortisol and adrenaline, start to settle, and instead the body begins to release chemicals of restoration. This is not something mystical, it is physiological. Silence shifts the body from survival into creation. It signals to your nervous system that you are safe, and only in safety can true healing take place. It is in silence that the immune system gets stronger, that inflammation reduces, that the body finally gets a chance to repair the damage caused by stress. But silence heals not just the body, it heals the mind. In silence, you can finally hear what has been buried under the noise. Old wounds rise to the surface, old emotions come to light, and for the first time you have the space to process them rather than run from them. Pain that has been ignored, grief that has been numbed, fears that have been suppressed, silence brings them gently into awareness, not to hurt you, but to free you. Healing cannot happen by avoiding or distracting. Healing happens when you create the stillness to face what is inside and allow it to pass through you. Silence heals the heart as well. Relationships are often damaged not by what is said, but by the inability to listen, the inability to be present. When you cultivate silence within yourself, you become less reactive, less defensive, and more compassionate. You begin to hear people not just with your ears, but with your presence. Your silence becomes a safe space for others, a healing presence that requires no words. Sometimes the most powerful way to love someone is not by speaking, but by being silent enough to truly understand them. Silence also heals your connection with life itself. The world is full of signals, full of beauty, full of guidance, but most of it goes unnoticed because we are too busy, too distracted, too restless. In silence, you notice the rhythm of your own breath, the subtle sounds of nature, the sensations in your body, and the synchronicities around you. You begin to realize that life is communicating with you constantly, and that you were missing it simply because you weren't still enough to notice. Silence reopens that channel, reminding you that you are not separate, that you are supported, and that you are part of something much larger. And there is another layer of healing that silence offers, the healing of identity. Many people are exhausted not because of what they do, but because of the masks they wear. They are constantly performing, constantly speaking, constantly trying to prove themselves to the world. In silence, the masks fall away. You no longer need to perform, you simply are. And in that being, you discover your true self again, not the roles, not the labels, not the expectations, but the essence of who you really are. That realization alone is profoundly healing because it restores you to authenticity. The healing power of silence is not a one-time event, it is a practice. Every time you allow yourself to step into silence, whether it's through meditation, prayer, mindful breathing, or simply sitting quietly, you are giving your body, your mind, and your soul the greatest gift possible, the space to return to wholeness. The more you practice it, the more you will find that silence does not just heal temporarily, it transforms you. It rewires your nervous system, it clears your mind, it strengthens your spirit, and it allows you to live in a state of deeper balance and peace. Intuition awakens in the space that silence creates. Every one of us carries within us a deeper knowing, a kind of inner compass that points us toward truth, clarity, and alignment. But most of the time, that inner compass is buried under the constant noise of the mind and the demands of the world. We are taught from a young age to rely only on logic, only on analysis, only on what can be measured and proven. Yet some of the most important decisions in life are not made from data or facts. They are made from a feeling, a quiet sense that something is right or something is wrong or something is calling us forward. That is intuition, and it is awakened not by more thinking, but by less. It is awakened when the chatter fades and the still voice within can finally be heard. Intuition is not loud. It does not argue with you or demand your attention. It whispers. It nudges. It comes as a sudden clarity, a sense of knowing without explanation, a pull in a direction that doesn't always make sense to the mind, but feels profoundly true to the heart. Most people miss it, not because it isn't there, but because they are too distracted to notice it. Silence becomes the condition in which this inner voice grows louder. When you step into silence, you start to notice the difference between the voice of fear and the voice of wisdom. Fear is noisy, urgent, restless, and repetitive. Intuition is calm, steady, and simple. Fear shouts 1,000 reasons to doubt, while intuition quietly says, "This way." The awakening of intuition is one of the greatest gifts of stillness because it gives you guidance that no external source can provide. Others may give you advice, the world may give you rules, your mind may give you arguments, but only intuition knows what is truly aligned with your soul's path. It is intuition that tells you when to take a leap, when to walk away, when to wait, when to trust. And when you begin to live by it, your life begins to flow in ways that logic alone could never create. You start meeting the right people at the right time. Opportunities appear that seem impossible to explain. Synchronicities line up as if the universe itself is arranging things on your behalf. This is not luck, it is alignment, and alignment happens when intuition is awakened and followed. The more time you spend in silence, the sharper this inner knowing becomes. Just like a muscle grows stronger with use, intuition grows clearer with practice. Each time you honor it, each time you act on it, despite the doubts of the mind, you build trust with yourself. And the more you trust it, the more it reveals. At first, it may come in small ways, a feeling to call someone, a sense that you should slow down, an inner warning to pause before making a choice. But over time, as you honor it, intuition begins to guide every area of your life, from your health to your relationships to your purpose. It becomes your most trusted advisor, and unlike external voices, it never misleads you because it comes from the deepest part of who you are. Intuition also awakens creativity. Many breakthroughs, inventions, works of art, and discoveries came not from logic, but from a moment of sudden inspiration, an intuitive insight that arrived in stillness. History is full of people who trusted a gut feeling, a vision, or a dream that made no sense to the rational world, but later changed everything. When you allow yourself to be quiet, you enter that same field of possibility. You open yourself to inspiration that cannot be forced, only received. Silence is the doorway, and intuition is the voice that walks through it. Living with awakened intuition brings a new kind of confidence. It is not the confidence of knowing every answer or controlling every outcome. It is the confidence of being guided, of trusting that even if you cannot see the full path, each step will be revealed when you are ready. This kind of confidence removes anxiety, because you no longer feel you must figure everything out with your limited mind. You realize there is a greater intelligence working with you, and your role is simply to listen, to trust, and to follow. Detach from the external, because as long as you are chained to what is happening outside of you, you will never find real peace inside of you. The world is full of noise, full of demands, full of constant movement that pulls at your attention from every direction. People's opinions, the pressure of society, the endless stream of information, the chase for material possessions, the competition to be seen and validated, all of this becomes a trap that convinces you that happiness, worth, and fulfillment exist outside of you. But the more you chase those external things, the more you realize they never truly satisfy. They can give you a moment of pleasure, a temporary sense of security, but they cannot give you lasting peace. Lasting peace comes only when you detach, when you stop letting the external world dictate the state of your inner world. When you are attached to the external, your emotions rise and fall with every circumstance. If people praise you, you feel good. If they criticize you, you feel broken. If you have money, you feel secure. If you lose it, you feel worthless. If life goes according to your plan, you are happy. But if it doesn't, you collapse in despair. This way of living is fragile because it puts all your power into the hands of things you cannot control. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you reject the world or run away from responsibilities. True detachment means you are no longer controlled by what happens outside of you. You can appreciate the external, you can enjoy it, but you are not enslaved to it. You know that your center, your worth, your peace, and your joy come from within. Detaching from the external allows you to reclaim your freedom. Think about how much energy people spend trying to impress others, trying to prove themselves, trying to maintain an image that will be accepted by the world. That performance is exhausting, and it keeps you from being authentic. But when you detach, you begin to live for truth rather than approval. You no longer shape yourself to fit into others' expectations, and you no longer chase validation from people who are themselves searching for it. You become free to be yourself, and that authenticity is where real power lies. Detachment also frees you from the illusion of control. The truth is, no matter how hard you try, you cannot control every outcome. You cannot control what others think, and you cannot control the flow of life. Yet most suffering comes from the attempt to control what cannot be controlled. Silence and stillness teach you that your strength lies not in controlling the external, but in mastering your internal. When storms come, and they always do, you can either be thrown around by every wave, or you can anchor yourself so deeply inside that no storm can move you. That is detachment, the ability to be in the world without being consumed by it. When you detach from the external, you begin to notice something beautiful. Life becomes lighter. You no longer carry the weight of other people's opinions. You no longer measure yourself by material possessions. You no longer chase endlessly for the next thing, because you realize that what you truly need, you already carry within you. This doesn't mean you stop striving or achieving. It means you strive from a place of wholeness rather than lack. You no longer seek success because you think it will complete you. You create because you are already complete. That shift changes everything: your work, your relationships, your health, your sense of purpose. Detachment is not indifference. You still love, you still care, you still dream, but you love without clinging, you care without controlling, and you dream without fear of loss. You show up fully in life, but you do so from a grounded place, a place that is not shaken by every change in circumstance. This is why silence is so powerful, because silence cuts the cords that tie you to the external. It turns your attention inward, reminding you that your true home, your true strength is within. Once you experience that, once you know it deeply, no external situation can ever dominate you again. Manifestation accelerates in silence, because silence is the space where thought becomes energy and energy becomes matter. Most people try to manifest from a place of noise. They speak endlessly about what they want. They worry about how it will happen. They obsess over the timing, and they cling to the outcome. But the very act of clinging, worrying, and overthinking scatters their energy. Instead of sending a clear signal to the universe, they send a fractured one, full of doubt and contradiction. Silence changes that. Silence gathers your energy into one steady frequency. It allows your thoughts, emotions, and intentions to align into coherence, and that coherence is what makes manifestation so powerful and so rapid. When you enter silence, you step beyond the chatter of the analytical mind. You stop negotiating with the how, the when, and the why, and you begin to dwell in the feeling of already having what you desire. In silence, imagination is no longer just daydreaming, it becomes a rehearsal of reality. You create images in your mind with such clarity, and you infuse them with such deep emotion that your body cannot tell the difference between what is imagined and what is real. The nervous system responds as though the event has already happened, and it starts aligning your chemistry, your energy, and your behaviors with that reality. This is how manifestation accelerates. Because in silence, you are not just thinking about what you want, you are becoming it. Silence allows you to hold your vision without distraction. In the outer world, everything competes for your attention: the doubts of others, the noise of social media, the setbacks of daily life. But in silence, there are no competing voices. There is only you, your vision, and the field of infinite possibilities. And the longer you hold that vision in silence, the stronger the signal becomes, the clearer the instructions you send to the universe. It is like tuning a radio. When you are distracted, your signal is full of static, but when you are silent, the frequency becomes pure, and the broadcast is unmistakable. The universe does not respond to words alone, it responds to energy. Silence sharpens your energy. It moves you from begging for what you want to embodying it, from hoping it will come to knowing it is already here. That shift in vibration is what draws opportunities, people, and circumstances into your path. The outer world begins to reorganize itself to match the inner coherence you created in stillness. What looked impossible suddenly becomes natural, because you are no longer creating from desperation, but from alignment. Another reason manifestation accelerates in silence is because silence removes resistance. So often, people sabotage their own intentions with contradictory thoughts. I want abundance, followed by, but it's so hard, or I want love, followed by, but what if I get hurt again? These opposing thoughts weaken the signal and slow down the manifestation. In silence, resistance begins to dissolve. The mind is quiet, the heart is open, and in that openness, you create without interference. You are no longer asking from a place of lack. You are communing with life itself from a place of trust. That trust is magnetic. Manifestation in silence is not about sitting passively and waiting for miracles. It is about becoming so aligned inwardly that your actions, when they come, are inspired, effortless, and effective. You don't force opportunities, you recognize them. You don't chase people, you attract them. You don't push against life, you flow with it. That is why things happen faster, because you are no longer swimming against the current of your own energy. You are moving with it, and that movement carries you further than striving ever could. In silence, time also changes. A few minutes of pure, focused intention in silence can be more powerful than hours of scattered effort and noise. That is why the great masters, inventors, and visionaries often withdrew into silence before breakthroughs. They knew that in the stillness, new realities are conceived. When you learn this, when you commit to moments of silence each day, you step into the creative field where manifestation is no longer a struggle, but a natural expression of who you are becoming.